what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, and today we have a pretty interesting conversation to have about Shikamaru Shinden Mourning Clouds. So in today's edition, we're gonna be doing a bit of a follow-up to that time when Shikamaru found out about Shikadai turning down an excellent commission because of Shikamaru himself being the reason why that mission was given to Shikadai. And so this is an interesting moment between father and son right here, because so often one of the comments I see people say is like, man, how come we don't ever see the old generation talking to the new generation about things in their past? Well, you actually get it in this scene in the light novel. That's why I tell a lot of you guys, like, if you have time, actually sit down and read the light novels. I try and cover them to try and get you interested in reading the light novels. That's why I do it in a piecemeal setting. But if you actually take the time and go through and read it, I actually leave out a few scenes here or there. And this is one of those times where normally I would leave the scene out. That way when you read the novel, you say, oh shit, he didn't actually cover this. Well, that's not exactly the case here. So in this one, this is so important that I couldn't actually skip over this one. So essentially, you have Shikamaru after he and Naruto, they go meet with Ikkyo a few days after the end of the Mujina Bandits, after they've interrogated Shojoji, and Shikamaru and Naruto, they're sitting there and they're using a bit of tag team on the Land of Fire's feudal lord Ikkyo, and basically both of them are bowing with their heads to the feudal lord, begging him to actually speak to the Land of Earth's feudal lord to try and get the feudal lord of the Land of Earth to seek other ways to gain the capital that he needs in order to avoid any type of war. And Shikamaru is giving all the intel that's coming out, saying like, look, you know, the Land of Earth has ordered the Hidden Stone Village to start assembling on their border. You know, things are starting to get a little dicey at this point. It's only going to be a matter of time before the Hidden Cloud Village actually puts two and two together. And Ikkyo's like, look, we'll just send Konoha Shinobi there. They'll be observers and they won't dare try and do anything, because Ikkyo knows the same thing that Shikamaru knows, that Konoha is so powerful that, like, look, if they wanted to, they could just crush any of the nations in a war if they ever wanted to. If multiple nations teamed up, Konoha would be able to crush them. He ain't necessarily worried about it. But Shikamaru is saying, I strongly believe if we don't get this solved within days, so we're already 3 or 4 days after Shojoji got brought to Hidden Leaf Village, and so you're in this situation. He's like, there could be full-blown war between these two villages and we'll have to pick a side. And Ikkyo says, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll pull some strings behind the scenes in order to get things worked out. You guys just go back to Konoha and I'll report to you guys. I'll report to you my findings, and we'll kind of work out a way to actually stop the actual bleeding before it gets any worse. So Shikamaru's at home and he's looking at Tamari and he wants to make things right with Tamari before he gets in the bath, but he also has the situation with his son. So essentially Shikadai's been taking on a lot of missions since he's made the rank of Chunin, and Shikamaru goes out to check on his son. He's watching his son, he's playing all these video games and everything, and Shikamaru's like, man, like, I played shogi when I was this age. Like, Shikamaru has a total boomer moment at this point, man. Like, Shikamaru's like, yo, I was playing shogi at his age. This kid's playing video games, watching Shikadai's using the, quote, ironclad warrior that is just defeating the enemy that's in front of him. And just when Shikadai looks like he has the advantage, he ends up losing. Shikadai almost just throws the console game into the front yard, but he stops himself, and that's when Shikamaru kind of talks to him, and Shikadai, in a very weird way, is actually teaching Shikamaru all over again the importance of teamwork, because he's saying like, yo, you know, when I play this on the console or when I play this on the mobile and it's me and Boruto and Nojin, you know, we're playing the game, and, you know, when we get the opportunity to work together, we're able to actually accomplish things because we can actually give each other feedback. But it's so rewarding when you go at it by yourself and you do something where you would actually need help in order to actually finish the mission. Well, in this case, you get to finish the quest because you're just so much of a badass by yourself. But, you know, sometimes I miss it when I don't get to play with Boruto and them. And, you know, the lesson goes over Shikamaru's head because he's got so much going on in his head. He doesn't realize that his son is also talking to him like, Dad, I've kind of noticed a change in you the same way that Naruto noticed that change. But Shikamaru takes this moment and he and Shikadai have a real heart-to-heart moment where Shikamaru tries to apologize for Shikadai being taken advantage of, as a way to actually get closer to Shikamaru by one of the smaller feudal lords. And so what you end up getting is that Shikadai is complaining, he's calling it a drag, and that's when Shikamaru basically pulls out the cigarette and tells his son, like, look, sit on daddy's lap for a second, we're gonna have story time. So now that you got the actual scene set, I'm gonna go into what's probably one of the more heartfelt father-son moments that we've ever had in the Boruto franchise. So it's gonna be here, I'm gonna begin quoting, and then I'll come back to you guys my thoughts, and it's here that I quote, cast a shadow on my ninja path. Shikadai smiled, still looking out at the garden. His smile seemed almost sad somehow. It's not such a big deal as all that. An S-rank mission out of the blue, it was just too much of a drag, so I said no. That's it. Shikadai said, a drag, huh? Shikamaru replied, yeah, a total drag. Basically, just because I look good in the tuning exams and all these people came out the work and made this huge fuss over me. But I'm totally not that great. If it means more headaches and more hassles, then I'd rather not be a tuning at all, Shikadai said. I know a guy who used to think that same thing, Shikamaru replied. Who? Shikamaru pointed to himself. You? Dad. Shikadai's eyes opened wide with surprise. Maybe he couldn't imagine Shikamaru like that, given how hard he worked now, how much of a hassle he willingly took on. But his own boyhood had been one of annoyance at anything and everything of satisfaction with middling results. That old Shikamaru had still had a dream though. The dream of a just right life. And I was way worse than you, Shikamaru said. He smiled as he spoke. At any rate, doing anything at all was a total drag, and just right was basically good enough for me. My dream was to live a lazy, just right life, and then I would die. I wasn't interested in standing out at all, and I never dreamed of trying to get ahead. If anyone complicated me, I'd always brush it off with, what a drag. Anyway, my whole life revolved around trying desperately to not get dragged in any fresh hassles. Shikamaru said, really, Dad? Shikadai replied, I am your dad, he told his son. You get that personality from me. Makes sense when you think about it like that, I bet, Shikamaru said. It was a curious logic, but it did make sense. Shikadai could only nod in agreement, but Shikamaru started. As the empty sky darkened into the night, he saw a vision of his comrades there, injured during the mission to bring back Sasuke. All that annoying stuff I tried to run from, well, it changed me. I always wanted to turn my eyes away from every hassle that popped up before me, but I couldn't. And every time I overcame one, this feeling grew stronger inside of me, like I couldn't keep drifting along the way I was. I started to feel like I had to stand and face whatever came without ever averting my eyes. No matter how much of a drag it was, I felt like if I did that, I'd be able to find my true self, Shikamaru said. So then, the old you wasn't the real you? Shikadai asked. At the time, I thought it was. I thought strolling along through a just right life was very me, but it looks like I was wrong. Now though, I can hold my head high and say this is the real me, Shikamaru replied. Shikadai stayed silent. He pursed his lips like he was thinking hard about something. Shikamaru gently touched his back, suddenly noticing how much larger it was. I still say things are a drag though, don't I? His son nodded. But it means something is different now, Shikamaru said. When I was a kid, I said everything was a drag without actually putting any real thought into it. But that's not how it is now, Shikamaru said. How is it now? Shikadai asked. You have to be ready to put your life on the line for whatever it is before you can call a thing a drag. You can't use the word as an excuse to run away. Once you admit that it's a serious drag, you have to do whatever it takes to overcome it. Otherwise, this little verbal tick of ours is just a convenient means of escape. In quote. So the conversation between father and son actually ends off with Shikadai and Shikamaru actually agreeing to meet together to play shogi after the fact. But essentially in this moment right here, the reason why I like it is that you get this scene where Shikamaru is looking out there at the garden, and as the actual sky gets darker, he thinks back to the Sasuke Retrieval mission. And he thinks about how his failures as a Chunin on that mission essentially almost got his entire unit killed, and how he basically was broken after the fact. And as he was doubting himself, the same way that Shikadai to a certain extent is doubting himself as a Chunin, just as his father stepped in and spoke to Shikamaru, Shikamaru is now speaking to his son. So I like that you see it a little bit right there, and I like how he kind of tells the story. It's like, look, you know, I used to call things a drag, but I learned after that mission that essentially he basically says you have to be willing to put your life on the line for whatever it is that you're calling a drag. Otherwise, it's not a drag. It's just you looking for an excuse to not actually handle the problems in front of you. You're looking for an excuse to run. He's basically telling his son, men don't run. Men run into their problems. They don't run away from them. And it's just one of those harder things. And so this is something that Shikadai is probably well aware of, but it's one of those times where actually hearing it from your father when you're in that situation where you need that fatherly advice, it's something that makes a world of difference. You know, that's the difference between somebody having the confidence to embrace a dangerous situation and make a gamble that could lead to death, but have the confidence to see it through. That confidence could be the difference between life or death right there. So I like that you're seeing that aspect right there, to where like Shikadai is learning from his father's mistakes, and Shikamaru is looking over the son, and he's kind of realizing that his son's pampered, but his son in a lot of ways is walking the same path as him. But because of the training that his son's had, his son's on that actual path to surpass him, but it's Shikamaru's duty to actually guide his son along the way. You know, for so long, people say they want to see Naruto kind of talk to Boruto about his experiences. That's one of those times where, like, I love those moments like this. I really love those moments. Again, you get little small moments like this in light novels. That's why I keep saying, like, if you're a Naruto fan, I strongly recommend checking out the light novels, man. There's a lot of good lore here. So my question to you guys is, now that you've actually seen this, what moment do you think had a bigger impact on Shikamaru? Was it actually that moment where the Sasuke Retrieval team is almost wiped out? Was it seeing his sensei killed in front of him? Or was it Shikamaru struggling with the bloodlust that comes from vengeance to want to kill Hidan? Which one do you think had the biggest impact on him as a character? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.